All right, there we go. All right, so we're back. So we have an important, but hopefully brief meeting to technically have a full board approval on the financing for New York Presby that many of us already heard about, as well as some of our general ongoing reports. We won't have a meeting in August, so this is a time to catch up on all of our summer business before we adjourn. And Sarah, we have a quorum, correct?
We do. We have a quorum,
Okay,
7 members.
all right. First order of business is approval of the minutes behind tab 1. Anybody have concerns, questions?
None here.
None here. Could we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, great. Second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, Al and Jerry. We are going to, I'd like a motion to go into executive session to discuss the financial and credit history of a particular corporation, matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. We will not take any action, but we will have an executive session if it is so moved.
Before we do that, Madam Chair, could we just get there was a motion and a second to approve the
Oh, I'm
minutes, but I
sorry.
don't think a vote.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
apologize.
I'm sorry.
So
I
let's do that
apologize.
motion first and then we'll go to the.
Okay, so we had a motion from Al, a second from Jerry. Could we get a vote? Is anybody all in favor of approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Hearing none, motion carries, minutes are approved. Apologies. Okay, now, may we have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the financial and credit history of a particular corporation, matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person, corporation, or proposed or pending litigation. Was that Janice?
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Amanda, can you pause the?
Okay, we are back from executive session. No decisions were made other than to return to the public session. And we will now have the Finance Committee report. Jerry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We met a short time ago and we adopted the meeting minutes from the June meeting of Finance that advanced the discussion of the New York Presbyterian offering that's on today. We recommend that be approved at today's board meeting. And unless anyone has any questions or concerns, that'll conclude my report, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Hey, Ruben, are you gonna just ask for the financing, or are we gonna just have somebody else do it?
Yes, I am here. I'm good. Again, I apologize for not being there in person. I feel okay, but probably contagious. So I just figured I'd spare you all the hacking and coughing. Behind tab 3, you have the New York and Presbyterian Hospital Obligated Group single approval transaction. We have a summary. Matt Berg will just give the highlights of the transaction itself. And then we have John Renkin of Hawkins Delafield and Jeff Perlman of Seton and Associates co-bond counsel talking the transaction. I also want to thank Matt Porter of DOH for being here today. Ken Evans is not with us. And Matt, thank you for coming and representing DOH on this transaction. With that, Matt, you want to introduce the transaction, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, we just discussed this in Finance Committee, so I wanted to go over some of the highlights. This is a 20-year term for a bond issue in amount not to exceed $400 million on behalf of the New York and Presbyterian Hospital Obligated Group. The financing that you're considering this morning is a refinancing of the New York and Presbyterian Hospital's 2013 taxable FHA insured mortgage loan. New York and Presbyterian Hospital, or NYPH, is the sole member of the New York and Presbyterian Hospital Obligated Group, and the loan agreement and the obligation are general obligations of NYPH and the obligated group respectively. And finally, the expected ratings for Moody's are AA2 and from Fitch AA. And with that, Madam Chair, I would like to hand things over to our co-bond counsels.
Thank you. Good morning. Before you for consideration is the adoption of a general resolution authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance or refinance facilities for the New York and Presbyterian Hospital Obligated Group now and from time to time with your approval, and a series resolution authorizing in the aggregate up to $400 million of DASNY's, the New York and Presbyterian Hospital Obligated Group revenue bonds. The proposed DASNY loan to NYPH is for the purpose of refinancing a 2013 taxable FHA insured mortgage loan and paying all or a portion of the cost of issuance of the special obligation bonds to be issued to provide a funding source for the loan from DASNY to NYPH. DASNY's loan to NYPH will in turn be supported by an obligation issued pursuant to their master indenture, or MTI. The MTI functions as the general borrowing document for NYPH and other members of the obligated group. Currently, there are no other obligated group members. It serves as an existing and expandable intercreditor agreement for indebtedness issued from time to time and supported by an MTI obligation, which is essentially a payment instrument that contractually carries with it the covenants of the MTI. In addition, the MTI limits the ability of the obligated group members to issue indebtedness not supported by obligations and the extent to which property, that is assets on the balance sheet, can be encumbered by security interests or other liens. An MTI structure enables, if other obligated group members are admitted, each obligated group member to borrow and enter into contracts individually, but have repayments secured by joint and several obligations of the obligated group members. Master indentures are the prevailing corporate or system borrowing construct in nonprofit healthcare finance in New York and around the country. They establish the conditions for admission to or withdrawal from the obligated group, general corporate status, good standing, insolvency, and the like, limitations on the incurrence of additional indebtedness, limitations on security interests or liens on property of the obligated group members, remedies in the event there is a failure to pay on an obligation or to perform covenants established under the MTI, and the means by which obligations may be paid or defeased or under certain circumstances replaced with obligations under a replacement MTI. The borrowing that NYPH requests today will be evidenced by the fifth obligation issued under their MTI. Obligations were previously issued in 2015, 2016, 2019, and 2021. Those obligations are currently outstanding in the aggregate principal amount of $2.85 billion.
The general resolution is a new resolution based on the authority's model resolution, and the authorized bonds will be the first bonds issued under the general resolution. The general resolution constitutes the agreement between DASNY and the holders of the bonds that are issued under it, and contains the basic terms of that agreement. The general resolution provides for the issuance from time to time of multiple series of bonds, each series separately secured from each other. The authorized bonds are special obligations of DASNY payable solely out of the revenues, which consist of payments made by the hospital under the applicable loan agreement. Payment of the authorized bonds is secured by the pledge and assignment made by the general resolution of the revenues and the funds and accounts that are established by the series of resolutions. The series of resolution authorizes the issuance of up to $400 million of authorized bonds. The current expectation is that the authorized bonds will be issued as tax-exempt fixed-rate bonds, subject to later conversion by the hospital to other interest rate modes. It is currently expected that the authorized bonds will be sold by negotiated sale to a syndicate of underwriters, the lead manager of which will be Goldman Sachs and Company, LLC. The series of resolutions delegate to various officers of DASNY the power to make the determinations described in our letter, to do all the things necessary or convenient in connection with the sale and issuance of the bonds. DASNY at the hospital will execute a loan agreement in connection with the issuance of the authorized bonds, which will require the hospital, as the sole member of the obligated group, to make timely payment of debt service on the authorized bonds. The hospital's obligation to make payments under the loan agreement will be a general obligation and secured under the master indenture. Consistent with DASNY's guidelines, the loan agreement will contain the appropriate standard document provisions and may include additional security provisions based on market conditions and practices. It is anticipated that the loan agreement will be an unsecured obligation of the hospital. In addition, the hospital will enter into an agreement to provide continuing disclosure in connection with the issuance of any publicly offered authorized bonds. We believe that the documents presented for your approval are in proper form for your action today. This concludes our presentation. We're happy to address any questions today.
Okay, I couldn't quite hear, sorry. Thank you guys for a thorough presentation. Do we have any questions for the team?
None here, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. Could we get a motion to adopt the resolution to approve the financing for New York Presby?
Sure.
Jerry,
Second.
second, okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Next, we thank you. We will turn it over to Ruben for the president's report and tab 4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 3 items today. First, I sent you a note a couple weeks ago, but we did in fact close the Chicago Atlantic loan for the cannabis fund. So we now have the $200 million committed. We've been working very diligently to get cannabis dispensaries open. Steve Curl and his group on the construction side have done a great job of managing our DB firms. We currently have 19 leases in place with another 5 or 6 to come online fairly quickly. We're closing the first round of funding for $27 million worth of build out for those 19 facilities. And tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we'll be having a showcase event at 144 Bleecker Street. This will be the first fully built out facility that is for show, if you will, probably open up sometime next week. But it'll demonstrate that the work we're doing on dispensaries really sets our licensees apart from others by providing security, safety, and a great customer experience. I want to specifically thank Pat Ryan for 2 reasons. Pat from the DOB is here with us today in Adrian's stead, so thank you for making your way down the hill for that. We appreciate that. But more importantly, Pat and his team did a great job of assisting us in getting this transaction closed. And the divisional budget has been just a tremendous partner in a lot of ways with DASNY, but certainly through this one, it's been really difficult, and he and his team did a great job. So thank you, Pat, for that. The second item in my report today is our CSEA contract. As you all know, over the past several months, we've been negotiating with our union. Finally gotten that resolved, and the union has voted on the contract positively. So we're ready to implement that. I've got 3 people who will be giving some highlights. We have Jeff Arnold, our director of budget, to talk about the budget implications, and then Lorna Plunkett and Allison Thomas from HR to just talk generally about the contract itself. We mirror fairly closely the big state CSCA. But appreciate everybody's help on this on the negotiating side. It's been quite a bit of work to get here. But again, we're ready to ratify that contract and to begin working under a new contract. I guess it's about 3.5 years left on the contract, so that's some retro as well. But Jeff, you want to jump in first, and then we'll get to Lorna and Allison?
Sure, thank you. Good morning, everybody. As outlined in your board materials, DASNY has agreed to the terms of a new collective bargaining agreement with CSEA Local 698 and the Janitorial Services and Security Guard Unit of CSEA Local 698. As Ruben mentioned, also with us today to discuss some of the details of the agreement are Lorna Plunkett, our Director of HR, and Allison Thomas, our Deputy Director of HR. And before getting into any of the details, I wanted to make sure to acknowledge the rest of our DASNY management negotiating team who helped us get to this point. That included, of course, Paul Koopman, our recently retired vice president, Hillary Marrera, our outside counsel, Monica Norris, our assistant general counsel, and Tim McGrath, our since retired director of construction. Negotiating sessions started with the union in the fall of 2021, and early sessions included a financial presentation by management and several productive discussions around some of the non-compensation items. After many negotiating sessions, DASNY management and CSEA ultimately arrived at impasse and started mediation in March of 2023. With the help of a mediator, DASNY and CSEA were able to reach an agreement in June of 2023. We've prepared a brief PowerPoint presentation outlining some of the highlights. So I will share my screen right now. Can everybody see that? Sorry.
Hey, Jeff, we needed to get the screen set anyway.
See it?
There we go.
How's that better? Sorry about that. So as I mentioned, some of the highlights of the agreement include cost of living adjustments of 2% effective 4/1/21, 2% effective 4/1/22, and 3% effective 4/1/23, all paid retroactively as applicable.
Jeff, I'm sorry, could you click on that screen? We're still seeing the cover.
What's that? Oh, you're not? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just start the slideshow.
Yes, thought I did, but sorry, I'm not as familiar with Zoom, I guess, so,
Or just click on slide 2 there on the left-hand side.
okay. All right, everybody see?
We're still on page 1.
Down in the.
There we go.
Okay, sorry, I can't tell the screen. As I mentioned, the cost of living increases included 3% effective 4/1/24 and 3% effective 4/1/25. And just to give that some context from a dollar standpoint, 2% COLA equates to about $700,000. And if you'll recall, the board adopted a resolution in May to increase our operating budget by $3.7 million in anticipation of implementing this contract. Other compensation related items included revisions to our longevity payments, which pay for employees who are at the job rate or the top of their salary range. The previous iteration of this had them receiving payments based on their performance evaluation ratings. Lauren and Allison will talk about the changes to that program later on. We also had salary increases for promotions. They changed from 5% to 7% increases. We take a look at the employee's situation in those and give them the benefit of the higher salary between the higher rate for the new position or the 7% increase, whichever is higher. And lastly, compensatory time is to be paid out no later than the close of the fiscal year in which it is earned. For those of you who don't know, compensatory time is any time that employees work above 37.5 hours in a week, but below 40 when overtime kicks in. And prior to this contract, there was no clause for payment of the time. They could just keep it in perpetuity. So apologize for the technical issues, but I'm going to hand it over to Lorna and Allison to talk about some of the non-compensation related items.
Good morning. I'm Lorna Plunkett, Director of HR. Thank you for having Allison and I here today. We want to say we're very pleased that we were able to reach agreement on some new and some enhanced benefits for our employees.
Lorna, I'm sorry. Closer to the mic.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to face the screen, but sorry, I'll face the mic instead. So we're pleased to be able to tell you that we've reached agreement that will include some new and some enhanced benefits for our employees. These benefits will be a great tool for HR to use in our recruitment and retention efforts. The first we'd like to highlight is telecommuting and work from home. Formal implementation of the telecommuting program that DASNY put into place in the summer of 2022 is now memorialized in our contract. This allows the majority of our employees to continue to work from home 2 days per week. Additionally, we have 15 limited work from home days per year per employee. An example of use of those days is bad weather. If you wake up and you're worried about your commute and you don't want to come to the office, you're able to use one of those 15 days to work from home. Another highlight is with DASNY approval, employees have 20 days available of remote work. They can use this to be present for an immediate family member with a serious health condition. This will require an approval process and medical documentation for use. Next slide, please. Thank you. We also wanted to highlight our performance evaluation system. Currently, I shouldn't say currently, our new system will be narrative-based. The process will have significant changes, and one of our goals is to be able to leverage technology using an electronic process. So the narrative-based performance review process, we're confident will allow flexibility to tailor the reviews to specific job titles and position responsibilities. Rating categories have now been eliminated from the process. Also, the beginning of the year, performance expectations will be established, and we will ask supervisors to use SMART goals. Then mid-year, we'll have another review and feedback from supervisors. This we expect to enhance employee communications and improve performance. Those are our highlights for you today. Back to Jeff. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. So we also reached an agreement with our much smaller janitor and security guard unit of CSEA, which consists of only 11 employees. But obviously, janitors, I've realized, have become very important in the last 2 or 3 years with the pandemic and everything else. Their contract includes cost of living adjustments of 2% effective 4/1/21, 2% effective 4/1/22, both paid retroactively. You'll notice that the slide skips 4/1/23. That's intentional, and I'll get to that in the next section. But it also includes prospective cost of living adjustments of 3% effective 4/1/24 and 3% effective 4/1/25. Now, as far as 4/1/23, we came to an agreement to establish a new salary schedule effective 4/1/23. The main reason for this really was to get our janitorial services assistants more in line with similar positions in other state agencies, and to account for projected increases in New York State minimum wage. We actually had a couple employees that were under minimum wage when the last increase happened. So we're trying to get ahead of this now, and the changes will allow us to do that. We also adjusted the security guard salaries as well by the same percentages that was applied to the janitors. Their contract also includes a $1,000 lump sum payment payable upon ratification, not added to base salary, a clothing reimbursement of up to $300 per year for janitorial services assistants. They'll be required to provide receipts and use the money only for work-related clothing, shoes, things like that. And then we memorialized a couple things that we've been doing in practice, including an agreement to provide our security guards in the Albany office with the nice DASNY polo shirts that you see when you come here. We added Juneteenth to the list of closed holidays, and we memorialized the practice of paying the cost for our security guards to maintain their New York State licenses. And that concludes the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions anybody may have. And again, I apologize for the technical issues.
Does anyone have any questions for Jeff, Lorna, or Allison? I just want to thank again, Jeff mentioned the various staff members on our side who helped negotiate this. Obviously, you also had staff members who negotiated on their side, all worked hard in good faith. And I'm really pleased that we are at an agreement now that I think works for everyone and gets us into a good place relative to our other state agencies and authorities. So again, appreciate the good work from the full team. With that, Madam Chair, we'll need a resolution to approve this contract.
Have a resolution to ratify the memorandum of agreement with CSEA bargaining units to approve the collective bargaining agreements to authorize an authorized officer of DASNY to execute the collective bargaining agreements and to make any necessary technical changes or execute any ancillary documents necessary to effectuate the agreement reached under the MOAs. I'll move. Thank you, Beryl. Any second? Sure. Jerry? Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, board members. Again, this is an important moment for us at DASNY to get this contract resolved. The final thing on my report is we have a project labor agreement. We've done PLAs many times in the past. This is for the Hutchings Psychiatric Center. Shouldn't be anything here of any note, but Steve certainly can ask for questions if you have it. Steve and Nadine, any questions?
Similar to all the others we've done.
Yes.
Anybody in Albany or Buffalo have any questions?
Here's the one thing. That's right.
Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Al, thank you. Second, was that Janice? Oh,
Was.
poor Janice, lonely Janice. Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you. I think Portia, you're up next on public finance report.
Sure. So in your materials are the standard public finance reports. Since the last board meeting, we priced the interagency council pool. Just a brief market update, total year-to-date long-term new issue supply for 2023 is approximately $191.8 billion, down about 15% from last year's comparable volume. This week's supply is expected to be lighter than recent averages at about 5.8 billion. Taxes and bond yields were unchanged on Tuesday, with both the 10-year and the 30-year AAA MMD holding steady at 2.5% and 3.46% respectively. U.S. government bond yields were higher, with the 10-year Treasury yield increasing by 5 basis points to 3.91, and the 30-year Treasury yield increasing by 3 basis points to 3.95. Municipal bond funds reported inflows for the week ending July 19th after the prior week's outflows. Since the June 21st board meeting, the 1-year MMD rate has decreased by 1 basis point. The 10-year MMD has decreased by 5 basis points, and the 30-year MMD has decreased by 2 basis points. During that same period, the 10-year Treasury yield has increased by 18 basis points, and the 30-year has increased by 30 basis points. I'd note that the FOMC is met yesterday, is meeting again today. So we'll have more news as far as their actions. And that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We have no resolutions. Anybody have any questions on the finance report? Okay, thank you. I guess next up is tab 6. Kim?
Kim is traveling, and I think we'll be jumping gears shortly, but let me just make a quick comment. Kim is in Philadelphia the last couple of days presenting at the NASP conference, the National Association of Security Professionals. She was asked to do a panel discussion. So glad to have Kim out in the marketplace talking about the good work of DASNY, as well as just generally the work that public entities are doing on the investment side. So with that, Kim, from your cell phone.
Yes, thank you, Ruben. Yes, literally just getting back, just got off the train. So I don't have a whole lot, but I did want to make it to the board meeting just to notify the board that some time ago, I brought to the board that we will be looking to replace our financial management system. I'm glad to report that we have made a final selection. I think it was included in Ruben's report back in February that we chose the Microsoft Dynamics product. We then went into in March and issued a bid, I should say. We issued a bid to select an implementation partner, and we are just wrapping up everything in connection with that bid, finalizing contract language, and we're hoping to bring that contract to the board for your approval at the September meeting. So I just wanted to make the board aware of the status of where we are in that project. Implementation has been moving very smoothly, very quicker than I think we anticipated. Chad Piero, who's also on the call, he's been doing a great job leading this effort, and he will be heading up the whole implementation process once we get that contract in place. So I just wanted to make the board aware of that, so that you would know that that will be coming to you at the September board meeting.
Great. I mean, that's a big lift always, I'm sure. So
Yes.
thank you guys for that. And I assume that we work with our IT team to make sure that we have the latest, greatest bells and whistles in terms of hacker penetration and things like that when we do this.
Absolutely. The IT team was, yes, the IT team was part of the process. When we looked at the various different softwares, they were part of the process when we issued the bid, when the bids came back, just kind of understanding what it is the implementation partner would be able to provide, understand what would be expected from the IT department, and then also trying to understand what additional needs we may need, which you'll see when we come to the board in September. We're also looking to explore setting up a data lake or data warehouse, which we haven't done in the past, but this financial system replacement will probably be the first system that we will look to build a data lake so that we're not converting so much of that historical data at a high cost. We'll be able to deposit that data into a centralized data lake that if we do need to report on it, it is available, and it will allow us to generate reports by pulling from that data lake. So IT has been very involved in the process. They've been partnering. Chad's been working very closely with IT, and I think we'll have a good end result once we move forward.
And Kim, I just want to highlight that Chad, who's done a yeoman's effort, he led our work on the grant implementation program. We put a big grant program together that had a big IT component to really streamline our grant process. Chad did a great job of coordinating between the business uses and the IT folks. Such a great job. You got this assignment, and has done a great job
Yes.
so far in letting this go. So Chad, we really appreciate you. Work has been great.
Well, that's great. And thank you, Chad. I mean, the financials, our accounting system is really the backbone of what we do. So it's super important work, and we appreciate the work of the many, many people who work behind the scenes to make this look easy. Any other questions for Kim or Chad? Nope.
Nope.
Okay, great. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Next up is Steve on the construction report on tab 7.
Thank you. Good morning. Behind tab 7 are the standard DASNY construction division reports. A couple of notes: we added 15 new CUNY projects this month for a total of about 220 million in new work. We completed one project at City College. Expenditures for the period ending May 22 were 92.5 million. May 23, 109 million. So we ticked up about 16.5 million in the past year. Couple of program updates. Start with SUNY. The 23 summer projects are nearing completion. There are really no issues on any of those with regard to student occupancy. So chugging along pretty well there. The FIT project, we received a schedule update number 26. Learned from our GC that they will not complete the project in 2023. FIT is well aware. We're working with FIT to try to figure out what it all means for classroom scheduling for the spring of 2024 semester. SUNY New Pulse, That project, substantial completion date is pushed from July into September. They are planning a spring occupancy, so we should be okay there. The U Albany Colonial Quad project, MEP work is advancing on both low-rise residence halls. Things are going okay there. Mackenzie Hall, we've cut back on the scope of work we're going to turn over to the college for the fall of 2023. The balance of the work will be turned over for the spring of 2024 semester. DASNY did present, myself and Eric McQuaid presented at the SUNY PPAA conference back in mid-July. Our next quarterly meeting with SUNY is Tuesday, August 8th. On the CUNY side, we had a June 29th meeting with CUNY higher ups that was canceled. We're working to reschedule that. That was with regard to some process improvement strategies that we had crafted and wanted to push forward. A couple of project updates. The Lehman School of Nursing, this is the $100 million project, was supposed to complete in July of 23. This month has slipped into August. Again, spring 2024 occupancy was what they were shooting for, so we should be okay there. I mentioned the 15 new projects that dropped in. That's of 56 that have been assigned to DASNY. And now we're starting to hear about the fiscal year 23-24 projects that'll come our way beginning in September. So very heavy CUNY workload. Ruben mentioned OCM. The program is certainly picking up in intensity. We've issued 16 work orders to the different design build teams. 30 RFPs have been requested, 53 site assessments completed. 13 projects are now in construction. Several others are either waiting in the wings for local municipality approval or are in design. The DOH Life Sciences Lab project, this is the $1.7 billion new lab that'll be located in upstate New York, up in Albany. We are now coming close to completing negotiations with the Turner Gilbane HOK design build team. We're hoping to have final contract language by mid-August, at which time we'll send that up to OSC for approval. As far as OMH and OPW, DD, since our last board meeting, I got the chance to visit the Western New York Children's Project, Sunmount DDSO, and St. Lawrence PC. All sites are very active, a long backlog of work. A lot of work is coming our way from OMH these days. Just a couple of other administrative items, still in the market, recruiting heavily. Our 8 summer interns are finishing up their assignments at a number of sites across the state. We are working with HR to secure some of them for permanent positions after graduation in spring of 2024. They've done a nice job for us. We have relaxed minimum quals based on the market for our architect and engineer positions, as well as our project manager and field rep titles. Also working on training and onboarding for new staff that are coming into the division. We have our next directors, chiefs, and senior managers meeting next Thursday here in New York City. We'll be working on a number of things, mostly procurement related and design phase duration related. Appreciate the PLA approval today for Hutchings. And PM Web, we have completed phase 1 of the implementation of the system. We're now working on project closeout with an eye toward migration from the contract manager system of all our projects into PM Web. That's about it for this one.
Busy as always.
Yep.
Any questions, feedback for Steve?
Steve, I guess I ask a question every once in a while. The recruiting efforts I know are difficult, and that has a great deal to do with our high standards and what those standards cost to bring people in. I'm just wondering, you made an oblique reference to it a second ago with standards have been relaxed. And I just want to make sure I know what that means.
Yeah, so throughout the course of DASNY's history, we've always hired licensed architects and engineers, New York State licensed architects and engineers. We've relaxed that criteria. And there's some other examples of some relaxation. Back in 2008, I changed our project management title to require a 4-year degree of all candidates, and we're relaxing that as well. I worked with my team. I think they see the future. For me, it's difficult to move forward with these changes, but they're feeling the impact, and we can't sit back and do nothing. So something has to change. It doesn't mean we're not going to hire a licensed architect or engineer. It just means others will be mixed in to the recruiting process that we may be considering.
And some work experience is just as important.
It sounds like a good.
They're not stamping drawings, so I might question the real need for being a licensed professional or equivalent work experience or something.
I think the thought was always that they are reviewing, we're permitting, like, stamped documents by third-party architects and engineers. Just to keep things kind of level, we thought a licensed individual reviewing a licensed set of documents was the right thing to do for many years. It's the preferred thing to do, and we are the permitting entity in many cases, so we want to get it right. Sure. But there are examples in DASNY of, I think, very qualified individuals who don't carry the license. And we just need to find more of those types.
Gives you some flexibility.
It gives us flexibility in the hiring process.
I would say same for a project manager. I would take somebody who's managed projects for 5 years over somebody new who has a great degree.
Came out with a degree.
Yeah.
1,000%.
So
Thank you. And I agree.
keep on keeping on. Okay, anything else for Steve? Okay, I think we don't have a general counsel's report because everything our general counsel's office does is infused through everything else we've talked about today. So we'll look for a more formal report maybe next time or when they have something to say. Is there any other business we haven't talked about?
I just wanted to indicate with respect to the cannabis program, the legal team did put a significant Herculean effort towards helping get that across the line. I just want to point out that Ricardo Solomon put a lot of work into it as well. And I just wanted to thank my legal team for all the work that they did these past 2 months and are still working towards implementation. So just wanted to make that plug as well.
Right.
Those leases are very complicated.
And it's new territory. It's not like you can, whip out the case law.
Right, that's right.
So that's great. We appreciate all the detail and, putting our best foot forward in this brave new world.
Just don't be using the product while you're writing it.
Okay. All right. So I think there is no other business. Can we have a motion to adjourn? So moved, Beryl, Jerry. Thank you. All in favor?
Hi.
All right. Anyone opposed? Okay. We will see you at the next regularly scheduled meeting, which is after Labor Day. There's no meeting for August. Have a great rest of the summer, and thanks to the team for all the summer work and getting us as far as we are. More to come. Clearly, we have a busy upcoming future with CUNY and SUNY and healthcare as well. So thanks a lot, and we are adjourned.
Good. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Ruben, feel better.